Carla and I went to the Republican Women in Butte County, and actually in Oroville. I think it was a week ago Friday. And we listened to Debbie Bacigalupi. But we had a master of ceremonies that was introduced, and it took about a half hour. This guy had credentials. They went on, his experience and the honors and everything. But we normally just introduce him as Paul Preston, Agenda 21 Radio. World famous Paul Preston. Paul.
Thank you. No, it was 6. I wrote it. I never imagined that she would start to read the whole thing, and then, because when you're doing these kind of speeches and stuff, people ask you for your bio, who are you, what you've been doing, and all that stuff. And so when I wrote my bio up, it was like 10 pages long. And I just wrote, and I'm like, I gotta cut this down. So it went down to 6. And then my computer crashed, and I can't find the short form, which is 1 page. So I said, I was kind of pressed. I said, well, she's getting the 6-pager, and she got it. And I said, please, edit it, do what you want. And I guess you couldn't quite do that. But I was really very, very flattered, I guess you could say, from the comments that and I wrote it. What can I say?
And if you have any comments when Paul's speaking, please come up to the mic here.
Yeah, let's use the mic. Let's be organized. Anyway, so yeah, that was a great experience because I got to talk with and be on the same stage as Debbie Bacigalupi, and I thought there was a pretty good chemistry actually between the two of us because she's really an internationally known Agenda 21 person, and I'm just associate Agenda 21 person. But one of the things that I want to do is I want to see the number of hands again that are way into chemtrails, please. There you have it. Chemtrails, geoengineering. And for those of you that are new to our group, the first timers here, we're way into it because we can actually see the chemtrails and understand it. Dane Wiggington is a good friend of the Tea Party here. And actually, Danielle, where are you? Oh, Danielle. Danielle has a little announcement, which I think is kind of interesting because this chemtrail geoengineering thing is taken off all around the nation. I think that Dane's website is now up to 17 million hits. 17 million views. And if you spend a lot of time on the web like I do, and people are giving me information back and forth, and we do talk a lot on the radio show about geoengineering, and Dane's a good friend of the show and all that stuff, you start to see real patterns developing in the population. And that is that more people are becoming aware, and this is becoming a major problem. Just like a lot of things are starting to happen now, more people are gaining information and tracking. You see, this is a wonderful thing. And Danielle's going to tell you about it. Don't sit down, Danielle. Don't sit down. She's going to tell you about this because this is one of the things that's nailing them, and they hate it. Okay.
You're going to show us self-defense?
No, not today. I'm a little wobbly. So, last time Dane Wiggington came down and last time Dane came down and spoke to the Tea Party at the old building we were at, he mentioned this app called Sutter Alerts. And I think it was like $2 or $3 to get the app on the Apple's iPhone store or, whatever other phone you have. And basically, you take a photo, you send it in, and you save the world. So it's some little app that if you sign all those petition stuff and you register, and then when you see chemtrails out and about wherever you are, it's driving me nuts. You take a picture of it, and then you fill out the information on this. You hit send, and it sends it to your local representatives in the Senate, the Assembly, And it basically sends them a petition with the picture that you're asking them to help remove this. So anytime you see the chemtrails, wherever you are in the world, take a picture, fill out the petition, and hit send. It'll send it to your representatives because it asks for your street and your zip code. And your representatives will get it. And it helps them be aware that this is going on. It could help them stop it. Maybe some of them don't realize it. It's called Skyder Alert. That's SKYDER Alert. Yes, Skyder Alert. I can pass this around if you guys want to look at it. You can have that.
I know Thomas would be in love with that because I get a lot of emails with the checkerboard patterns from Thomas. The other thing too is that all this downloads into a major database. So imagine this, and this is what I was going to allude to here as this came up. Is that we're now being able to get live pictures of them chemtrailing all around the world at one time. Can you imagine? We have that, and they don't want us to have that. I mean, just think of the power that's involved with that. And this is the type of political influence that's, they can't deny this now. It's just so difficult for them to deny this. And this is what we want. We want them in this position, and we're talking about the media. Okay, a little announcement here before I take some questions. And that the Liberty Tour is here. Our next one is Saturday, July 11th, and it's going to be in Nevada City at St. Canis Parish Church, and we're going to be working with the Nevada City Tea Party on this. It's going to be Chris Ann Hall teaching her Constitution class. We're going to be fusing that with Mark Baird. This will be a historic day. The two of them on the same stage talking, not only about the Constitution, but the Constitution as it applies to Jefferson, which we've never done before. Nobody's done this before. Now, Mark is, of course, gaining huge notoriety around the nation right now. He's in huge demand to be on the radio because he's out there talking about some of the fundamentals of the Constitution and how they apply to the state of Jefferson. So, good thing. Pardon me? It's going to be July 11th. Doors open at 7:30. Tickets are $25. And if you see me afterwards tonight and you sign up tonight, I'll give you the tickets for $20. And that includes lunch. It's a one-day event. Now, the night before the Tea Party has Chris Ann there to speak, so I don't have the information on that right now, but it starts, I believe, at 6:30 at night at the parish. So it's kind of a twofer. You can sign up for both of them. We started at 8:45. Right. That's a.m., correct.
What's yours?
That is SAPE, and it's spelled C-A-N-I-C-E Parish. And you'll be able to go to our website tomorrow morning. Actually, this didn't get it finished today. But tomorrow morning, all this information is going to be there. You can buy tickets online and so on. If you sign up with me tonight, your ticket cost is going to be $20. So, $20 per person. For you, no. Everybody else, yes. So, anyway, I wanted to break that to you. So, at the end here tonight, I've got the list we can sign up for. Okay, questions? Over there. We're going to be disciplined tonight. You got a microphone. Anybody who's got questions before we get started?
I had an aha moment the other night. I watched a movie that recorded the 31st, and it was called Race the Sun to Siberia, 1996 movie. And that means it was done probably shot in 94 and all the editing and everything. And they had a desert scene that's supposed to be taken in Australia. And lo and behold, this guy was covered with contrails.
In 1994, right?
Well, yeah, probably 94. And I just thought it was kind of interesting, and it was probably stock footage that they rented, so it was even prior to '94. But all of a sudden, bingo, there it was, right in the middle of that movie.
Right, right. Okay, let me tell you, for those of you that don't have your tinfoil hat on yet, we promote tinfoil hat thinking here. Why? Because we promote thinking. As you know, the government does not want us to think. So we approve of tinfoil hat thinking, at least on the Agenda 21 radio show at all times. So, Thomas, thank you for the tinfoil hat thinking. You picked up it in the movie and so on. I'll explain it to you. And this is one of the things when people talk to me about chemtrails, or I guess you're going to have to say vapor trails. Dane just hates the term chemtrail. Just call it geoengineering policy. No, Dane, everybody understands it's chemicals in the air leaving trails. But let me explain to you some of the factoids about geoengineering. In that geoengineering, all these chemicals that are being sprayed are patented. Anybody can go to the patent office and pull them up. People own the patent rights to this. A lot of them are owned by Hughes Aircraft. Jim Chang, he lives on not too far from Grovesite Drive in Tustin, California. He still is the resident there. He owns the patent from Hughes Aircraft for the aluminum oxide that is sprayed. And it says right in the patent that they're using it to aerosol the globe in order to prevent global warming. That's what it says. That's what it says. Okay, and then there's a huge explanation chemically of what it is. Now, I know that because I looked up the patents. And that guy struck me because his house was one street over from my in-laws' house in Tustin, California. I drove by the thing every day for years. Now, that was 1990. It was patented. Does that help you with the date? 1990, they patented. There's a whole slew of those chemicals. And it says what they're doing with them. So I say to people who don't believe in this, you better wake up. I mean, if you can't look up, of course, a lot of people think that the normal chemtrail is just any normal contrail. It sticks around for a half an hour, 2 hours. There's something wrong with that. They're doing figure eights with it. And, you wouldn't believe the stuff we see up here because we have such a global view. So yeah, that's why, Tom. That's why, Tom. Yes?
When you say they, who is the they? 21 people?
I've never met an Agenda 21 person. I'm just kidding. Okay, you're talking about the government, you're talking about the Army, the Air Force, you're talking about the Navy. They're heavy into this. Heavy, heavy, heavy. And you have some other non-governmental organizations that act as contractors that are flying these large aircraft and doing this. And then you have some of your colleges and universities are operating the HARP devices. Yeah. And this is happening. You can see this. I mean, this is, it's not even close to not being non-factual. But Fox News will deny it. They made fun of us on the 5 for this the other day. Yeah.
Well, 2 things. First off, June 5th from 4 to 7 down in Roseville Parkway and Reserve Road. There's a State of Jefferson over and overpass type of thing. I don't know if you know about that. But the other thing is, a friend of mine that's on a mission trip in Russia right now sent a thing through Facebook. He says, little fun factoid, maybe not so fun. In Russia, kids, like 6th graders, are required to learn how to disassemble and reassemble their machine gun in speed. They're training their kids for military in school.
Right, and that's been around for a long time. There's a whole bunch of YouTubes about that, where the kids are learning at age 6 to already go ahead and field strip and rebuild an AK-47. They have to. It's part of physical education. They go in their PE. Remember the old days we used to have PE clothes? You go in with their PE clothes, they stand at the table, there's an AK-47, they strip it down and put it back together. And they're timed. I didn't see anybody who didn't meet the time requirement, though. I don't know, off with their heads, I don't know. Question over here. Question? Microphone.
I can do that.
All right, go ahead.
You guys
Yes. If you want to listen to the show tomorrow night in particular, Dave Hodges is going to be on. And Dave Hodges is one of the deep researchers that I use and is also nationally, internationally known as one of the key researchers as to what's going on with Jade Helm 15. And they're not liking what we're doing. I can tell you that. The military, other people like the White House, not liking that we're finding out all the information that we're finding. The big thing, and I was going to talk about this later, but I'll do it now, is that Fox News, its retreat from all this information. And you may have, they've just come corporate now. They're just like ABC, CBS, NBC. The Five is just like, they might as well be MSNBC. If you watch them, I had a chance to listen to them today, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. It's a totally liberal agenda. And I thought, well, were they making the flip? But you know, that's what's happening right now. I'll really find out a lot more details tomorrow. You will too. Yes, ma'am.
So where are we going to do
The news. Agenda 21 Radio. The Blaze is a good source. I'm not really an Alex Jones guy, although he's out there on the edge, and he's so far out there, he's sometimes unbelievable. I don't criticize him at all, not one bit, for what he's doing and what's going on. Where is he? He's with Genesis News Network. And you'll everything, if you want the real news and information, like Dave Hodges or my show, the internet is the place to be. And how many of you don't have a computer yet? All right, or don't know how to operate it? Okay, Debbie and myself, we're going to be setting up some classes for everybody to learn how to be on the internet over at FER. And we'll let you know when that's going to be. We got so many things going on right now, so that people can be connected to the net. And that's really become the big look. We're all kind of turning away from air broadcast and television for obvious reasons. Television has just become too corrupt at this point. And we're almost 70% of people are getting their news and information out of computers and apps now. And that's why this country is turning. And they don't like it, not one bit. They're going to push back against us, and we know that.
That's why they got to control with the
You can get your news right here on your smartphone.
TalkStream Live app has my show. 6 o'clock in the morning, Pacific time, 6 to 9, TalkStream Live. I'm usually one of the top 15 out of the 85 shows that they have listed there. And these are national shows, so Laura Ingram and that group, I'm right up there with them. Yeah, TalkStream Live is the app. And then they replay the same show again, starting at noontime, Pacific, on TalkStream Live. So that's kind of new. Today was the first day of that announcement, so just to let you know.
I had a question. Have you heard anything more about specifically the state of Texas and Jade Helm? And what do you think about the flooding in Texas?
I think the
Do you
flood.
think it's weather warfare?
Yeah, this is weather warfare. I reached that conclusion yesterday after talking to some people. I have a brother who was in Texas, and basically his business was completely flooded out. Just moved from California to Texas a week before. And his name's Timothy. And but you know this. I just put 2 and 2 together because I just watch the skies, and I can, you know, it's gotten to the point where all of you, as you know, those of you, Thomas and other people that watch it every single day, you can see the tendencies that are happening, and you can predict the weather. And I think this is payback. I think Steve Quayle came out with his conclusion last week that it's weather warfare being waged on Texas right now, for obvious reasons. The shootout, the Texas shootout, and the bikers and so on. The shootout was with snipers and men who didn't know they were being sniped. Just to let you know. There were 9 men killed. 8 of them were Cossacks. All right, now follow me here. The Cossacks are a motorcycle gang found have an affiliate in the United States. And they're very tight with Putin. And of course, it just so happens that when these Cossack motorcycle guys were shot, that what was going on in the Ukraine. You see, the Ukrainians are Nazis. Hello? And we are supporting them. John Brennan and his affiliates to the CIA have set up the Nazis to go to battle with Putin. And of course, the Cossacks have been acting as a motorcycle gang in Ukraine to protect the ethnic Russians. Do you see why that happened? Or it's not too unbelievable to think that that couldn't be connected. Why would they have snipers on the roofs of those buildings surrounding Twin Peaks? Just think of that. They didn't stand a chance.
And they were all Cossacks? Was that you?
8 out of the 9 were Cossacks. Another guy, and by the way, there was, when you start really looking at it and investigating, and I'll talk more to Tom or Dave tomorrow, these guys were, how many of you know how many of you were in a motorcycle gang? Kind of, sort of. Thomas? Well, I know gang. I used to work with Hell's Angels. At one point they wanted to kill me. Then they liked me. So now they love me. It's one of those kind of things. But, the beef that was going on between the Banditos and the Cossacks wasn't to be carried out with any kind of death thing going on. They were there to meet and solve their problems. So there's a lot of questions that have to be answered about what happened there. Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, what do you know so far about the South China Sea?
Yeah, you're talking about the Spratly Islands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody in the Navy ever been there? Just thought I'd ask. Small island chains, atolls, and the Chinese, we just had, Chris Street was on the show. Oh, and Dr. Garrow. In fact, last Thursday's show, we spent a whole hour with Dr. Garrow just talking about South China Sea. And the Chinese are just taking over the islands as they please. No one's stopping them. We have 0 military assets in the area to stop them.
I saw the interview now.
Yeah, we got some warships airplanes South China Sea now.
Sure, and I put up on Saturday, a chart that came out just on Friday or Saturday, showing you the numbers of ships that we have compared to theirs.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, well, did you notice on the left-hand side, they probably had several hundred more than we had?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so, and submarines, 56 submarines to our 1 in that area. And we had 1 carrier task force assigned to that area.
But ours was nukes.
And you don't think they don't have nukes? And you don't think they're going to use them? Thomas, you get a question too? No. Anything else? Oh, you guys are a good group today.
Yeah, I got a question.
All right.
You're talking about the chemtrails, but I was reading an article on the internet about these 70-foot antennas that are shooting wattage up into the sky. And there's one north of Anchorage, and there's 25 worldwide.
Right.
And they're changing the whole pattern of...
Those are called HAARP devices. High Altitude
Oh, okay.
Auroral Research Project. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what they are is they send out radio frequencies, and they're called ionic heaters. They heat the ionosphere, and they can direct heat off the ionosphere down to the ground, or various sound waves down to the ground. And they can actually direct and redirect cloud formations in entire low pressure and high pressure areas.
That's what I think is going on in Texas.
Well, that's what's going on here in California. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. And if you take a look and go to Dane's website for the last 2 years, he's got everyday photos, satellite photos, of what's been going on. You can see the moisture being brought right over the north of California, and it all careens down, like during the wintertime, it was all careening down to the east.
Well, I saw a map and it showed all 25 of these
Right.
around the world, but I didn't see one in California.
There's one outside of Quincy,
Oh, there is?
Just a little tip. People up there tell me they can hear the jet engine, which is the generator for it, certain times of day. There's one north of Fresno. Same thing. Kind of like a portable one. But there's a whole bunch of them that they said were radar arrays. Some of them are being, and they're seaworthy. You've probably seen the big, huge domes, or domes at least this big, and they can be brought anywhere to bear in the ocean. The other side effects of these things is that the frequencies can be changed, brought down to the ground, and cause earthquakes.
Yeah, that's the other thing I saw.
Yep.
Paul, you were saying that they were reaching up to the ionic there. However, aren't these part things interacting with the aluminum oxide?
Absolutely.
Yeah, to change the weather.
Anything that's metalloid, of course, you could probably imagine the consequences of that with these radio signals. This is not stuff we made up. I didn't make this story up. I was as stunned as everybody. You know, I came to this realization about 2.5, 3 years ago. I was in total denial about it. Total denial. I thought, this dang Wayne guy, he's a loon. He's a loon. And then, it was one thing led to another. And I started looking things up. And I said, oh my God. And then, being me, the investigative part of what I do, I went and asked a pilot that I knew was retired that would perhaps talk to me. And he said, yes, that is exactly what we're doing. Yes?
So I've heard it said, we're chipped. We're all chipped. Every cell of our body has these metals. We're
Correct.
all metal size. And the caps apparently are melted or melting, the Antarctica. And the poles are melting. I thought that was a climate scare, but apparently with this overheating and the methane rise.
Methane rising, right.
So it's slush. They say, no, we have more ice cap on the polar. That's true but they're counting the 15%, which is nothing, 15%, but they count slush as ice. And so, will that in fact rising, like it's apparently it's flooding out Florida now, parts of the island, parts of the coast, but it'll flood out. We will in fact flood out the small islands because the cap.
I think there's a possibility of that, but that again, this is like, I talk on the radio show about California's anthropogenic drought. What part of the problem do we have here when the governor is knowingly draining the reservoirs of all of our large dams? Knowingly. I talked to people again this morning about Shasta. People went up there for me on Sunday. I said, what's going on at Shasta? Wide open. Wide open. And it's draining. I already knew about Oroville. I talked to people in Oroville on Friday. Wide open. Now, what part of that don't we quite get? And we're in a drought. Right. And to save 1 or 2 fish, the last assessment or last data that was gathered on the delta, they've turned up last week 1 delta smelt. That to me is extinct. Why are we even trying to preserve something that's extinct? And that's, I think, a pretty important thing to know. Now, the good news, and I don't think I brought this to you about that, the Cucamonga Valley Water District had a meeting, and I think it was a week ago. And they brought with them their torches and pitchforks. And it's on by, I got Lucy to laugh at that one. It's on the website and on the Facebook, and you can see this meeting with these water officials, and they're there to tell these people in Rancho Cucamonga, you are going to accept what Jerry Brown says and reduce your water usage by 25%. And oh, by the way, the screaming crowd is saying to these people, but you were telling us that we had 10 years worth of water in the aquifers down beneath us. They're right at the base of Mount Baldy in Southern California. And they do have a rich aquifer. I know that. I used to work up there. So it just doesn't jive. So the pitchforks and the torches were out.
No tar and feathers?
I think they closed the meeting down before that came out. But I think this is good news because Jerry Brown's in trouble. He's in real trouble with people. His lying is catching up to the masses in Southern California. That's never a good thing. Remember that happened to Davis. Gray Davis, he ticked off the Southern Californians, and the torches and the pitchforks came out. And I talked to a guy who lives down there in Temecula, and he was saying, oh yeah, it's on, everybody down there. Nobody's using the water restrictions because they know it's a lie. And they're figuring that one out. Now, thanks to our type of media, people are finding out the truth. You know, they can go and watch the water levels and all that stuff. And of course today, oh surprise, surprise, this Sierra is at 0% snow.
Yeah.
There's 0% snow because there was no snowfall. By the action of these two HARP devices kept the Sierra Nevadas free of snow. It just went up and over. Go look at the weather maps and you can see it. Tom?
I saw online also that they said Switzerland even had a drought and they had trouble with snow. I don't know.
This is happening worldwide. Listen, we just can't take it as Californians because it's happening worldwide. This is what they intend to do, is create these kind of droughts. The UN has already planned to evacuate California. That's already in the planning phase. It's already done. It's on my website. You can read it. Get a question?
Talk a little bit about the snow material that falls, that you burn it, it turns kind of black.
Oh yeah, well that, a lot of the snow, if you were to capture the snow that was over on the East Coast as an example, that came from California and then gathered up momentum and gathered up all the chemicals, a lot of these chemicals are flammable. You can actually burn the snow. People were finding that out.
Like snow on fire, I saw that.
Yeah.
Iceland or Greenland or something is just covered with black snow.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is being done to us, and, you know, that's why I say, you know, people are finding out. We just have to kind of keep up the momentum on them. They're desperate. I think the One World Order people are desperate right now because we're finding too much out too soon. It's really disrupting the Jade Helm situation. It's really disrupting the Obama situation, like in Baltimore. So, you know, the thing about Baltimore is kind of interesting. How many of you have been in a real riot in a big city?
No way.
There's one, maybe two. I was in two of them. The Watts riots, and then the LA riots. And I had relatives in the LA riots, which was kind of interesting. And we're like, we're already relatives. But when these riots happen, they're real riots. And there's something that really causes the real riot to happen. Such as in the case of the 93 or 92 riot, was Rodney King, right? We all understood that. And of course, we saw how incitement works when Tom Bradley said, you know, after the verdict was read, there must be some way for our people to vent. So within 5 minutes, the helicopter was showing the guy in the truck, Reginald Denny, being pulled out and hit in the head with a brick. Now, I saw a picture of Reginald Denny 10 years. He's got a brick dent still on his head. And that caused I termed it the first worldwide riot. And that's what they're patterning this summer for. Now, my people this morning, I'm going to bring this up, they think the cities are going to burn. And I said, I don't think so. I think they've already tried to get the cities to burn. We Americans are not taking the bait. And see, we didn't take the bait in Baltimore, and look what happened. The police have stand down. And what have we got going on there? It's just murder after murder after murder after murder. Because the police are not doing their job. They're afraid to be arrested for arresting someone. So now this has caught them off guard, because you have to remember something. The motive behind blowing up Baltimore was because of the president's 21st policing program, which was the COPS program. He wants to federalize all police forces. Well, that's gone. That's done. I don't think that's going to happen. I think because people didn't respond. The other one, too, is I think it's a big one, but let's be cautious, is what happened with the president and amnesty. He signed 2 executive orders. He wanted to sign a third, but he had Jay Johnson sign it as a memorandum of understanding. And the reason being is that he was going to be impeached immediately if he signed it. He already got that warning. Darn it. So he had Jay Johnson sign it, and he signed the other two at the high school down there in Nevada. Well, 26 attorneys general sued him. And they got a judge in Texas, Fifth Circuit Judge Annan, who said, this is all illegal. Hello? So he put a what do you call it on him? An injunction. So you can't do it. No dreamers, no DACA, no nothing. No new Americans and no new communities. Can't do that. Didn't stop him. No. They just went right ahead and ignored the court order. And then about a month later, the attorneys general said, hello, he's breaking the law. And Annan chastised him. Still didn't stop him. It still went on. And finally, they got accused a second time and the judge got ticked. So they apologized to the judge. Now, what happened, it was sent to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And they said, Mr. Obama, you're illegal. It stopped. So all of his little illegal immigration programs for amnesty are on hold. We don't think he's going to come back with it because he knows they're all illegal. Now that's the good news. The bad news is, why do you need amnesty when you can have asylum? And you can open up the borders because of asylum. And that's full tilt.
They've been doing that for a couple years.
That is just absolute, they've just amped it up now. So all these wars that ISIS is creating have created the refugees, and they're coming here. That's part of the plan.
We are ISIS.
And we are ISIS. Okay, this is the big story. I had Scott Bennett on my show the other day. Scott Bennett is a former Army PSYOPs guy. You listened to the show, Thomas. Did anybody else hear this? You heard it, okay. This is the thing they're all fearing. It's all about Benghazi. Benghazi. Now, we have been talking on our radio show for 2.5 years. I say this all the time, and I'm proud. When Benghazi happened on 2011, Chris Street and I were broadcasting almost in real time what was going on. Why? Because our information sources were pretty high level. What do you think? So high level that we knew what information was coming in and out of the White House, almost in real time. So we're just fat, dumb, and stupid. We're just reporting it on the radio like this is the way it is. Everybody else knows it, right? Of course, come to find out, you can't be saying that on the radio. And people called us a bunch of nuts and all that stuff. Well, we were right. The arms that were being brought into Benghazi were being supplied by the United States of America. By John Brennan, by Hillary Clinton. These are facts, ladies and gentlemen. These facts have been surfacing now for quite some time. I mean, in other forms other than just us reporting and then having to deny our sources. But we're absolutely spot on in our assessment. So, I heard about this guy. His name is Scott Bennett, former Army PSYOPs. Scott Bennett was one of the guys who put together all these terrorist organizations, an anti-terrorist task force and so on. He's also one of the guys who helped to put together ISIS. One of our own Army people. We supplied the weapons. This is a no-brainer. Major General Paul Vallely validated to me over a year ago when he visited here that yes, that was the case. He had just come back from Syria. He and I went out to dinner and we talked. And I'm telling you right now, he was one of the sources. We were forming ISIS. We were becoming the terrorist. Claire Lopez, who was part of our Liberty Tour last year, she and Paul Vallely and several others formed the Citizens Commission on Benghazi, which validated all that information that we were taking weapons, purchasing weapons, supplying weapons through Qatar into Libya before Benghazi to take down Gaddafi. Now in that, there was a plan. There was a plan being hatched for months. And I'm just telling you, you're going to hear this now. For the first time for me anyway tonight, you'll hear it coming out. For months ahead of the Benghazi attack, to attack the mission. for months. The story that they're hanging to now, that's coming from Fox News, 2.5 years late, is that this attack started 10 days beforehand. Not true. Not true. It was all part of the plan. And there was a bigger plan going on by Black Ops related to the White House from John Brennan, who's now our CIA director. He's a Muslim, that's correct. They all are, pretty much. So, now what we have is Scott Bennett. He was arrested by Eric Holder in 2011. And the reason was he was complaining about the formation of ISIS. So they arrested him and they put him in jail for 2 years. However, being in jail for 2 years, he made a friend, Brad, I can't remember his last name, who used to work with Booz Allen Hamilton, who happened to be the financier for all these terrorist organizations, including ISIS. So they compared records while in prison. And bingo, oh, there's the whole host of people, the whole cast of characters that are involved. Hillary Rodham Clinton? Oh yeah. Uma Abedin? Big time. You know who she is? She happens to be the aide to Hillary Clinton that the Saudis gave her back in 1996. She's also married to Anthony Weiner. I love saying that. I know people go, what? You can't get any more bizarre than that. But
And her brother.
And her brother. Her brother's a terrorist. Her dad was president of the Muslim Brotherhood. He died. And then the mother is president of the Muslim Brotherhood, Muslim Sisterhood in Egypt. So I guess there's no Muslim Brotherhood relationship between Uma. She happened to be the president of the Muslim Association of Students. But then there's no connection, right? So anyway, the Saudis have been funding the Clintons since the 80s. And this is all coming out. Because there's these things called emails. And people are starting to take the information from Scott Bennett and those emails, and they're putting like 2 and 2 together, which makes 4, not 5. And so, well, we're not using Common Core here. We're using common sense. We're using common sense. So, can you see how we're connecting dots? Okay, the story came out Saturday, which I'll be talking to Scott about tomorrow. I was going to try and get some comments from him today before the show, but tomorrow we're going to be talking about the situation, and I'll let you know what happened, so you understand what's been going on in the Senate. Because all this information that Scott has, he's turned over to Rand Paul. That is not a good thing for Hillary Rodham Clinton. And that's exactly what he's been referring to on the news about his fellow Republican senators supporting and helping to form ISIS. Do you get it now? He is the guy, the senator, that's going to lead it, and he's taken up that charge. And the other day when I was interviewing Scott, we talked off air, and it was kind of like, well, how far is Rand Paul going to go? And he was really, downtrodden. And I said, first of all, Scott, he's actually bringing it up in the Senate. And he kind of like, yeah, I guess so. But, the guy's been in jail. He's lost everything. He's fighting for his life, literally. And so he gets a little discouraged. But then I tried to get a hold of him. We put the article up that in the Washington Examiner, of all places, they published the article about ISIS and the Clintons and Obama. And that was on Saturday. That's the first major newspaper to print that. See, it's getting legs. It's getting legs. And Fox News, they are running completely away from this. They've known this information. In fact, Scott talked specifically that he's talked to everybody at Fox News about this information with all the details. He sent them all the copies, everything, including emails, including bank accounts, Swiss bank accounts all over the world showing funding for these terrorists. Sean Hannity refuses to talk to him. Megyn Kelly refuses to talk to him after incessant calling, I think is what he said on the show. Everybody at Fox is running from it. And they've taken up the whole thing. ISIS is real. Oh yeah, it's a terrorist organization. That's what you'll hear when you go home tonight on all the Fox News broadcasts. Yeah.
Don't the knuckleheads, like these people that are trying to undermine our country, don't they realize that they're lighting the fuse and eventually it's going to wind up in a nuclear war?
I think they do, and I don't think they care.
I mean, they're not.
What we can do right now, and this is where I think I'll leave it now because there's just so much more information on it, but is continue to do what we've been doing and do our best job. Where is it, Harriet? Did she leave already? She goes to the Capitol every other day.
Oh, yeah.
Karen, she's gone.
Karen, she's gone. I was going to give a special tribute to her. You know, we do make a difference. And this is why, you know, you look around the room and you say, well, there's some people, I always hear this at Tea Party meetings where, well, there's just really not, we're the younger kids and all that. It doesn't matter. It takes one. And what is Karen doing? She's taking her own time and meeting face to face and scaring the absolute hell out of some of these assembly members and senators. Little tiny thing showing pictures of, you know, people being blown up and stuff like that. Just the truth. What happens, you know, when you use butane honey oil and the butane blows up when you're making butane honey oil? Hello? And these people, I can tell you, I know these people. Of course they run from her. They go the other way. I've been walking those halls before. As people see me, oh, it's the other way. But that's one person having an impact. That's what it means when I say on the radio show, stopping totalitarianism, one community at a time. She's a community of one. One person doing that, and you can be that too.
Isn't Fox owned by a liberal?
No, it's 12% ownership by a Saudi family.
Oh, no wonder they're doing it. I thought Roger Ailes owned it.
East Germany? Correct. That's correct. It laid the foundation for the fall of the collapse of communism. That story some of you have heard, but when I interviewed Friedrich Mercurius in 1992, he was one of the founders of the Monday night masses in Leipzig. And this is before the fall of the wall. They organized the masses about 1978-79, and understand that they couldn't pray in East Germany. That was forbidden. You couldn't go to the church services. I mean, you could, but you'd be dead. All the church services, every Sunday there would be a church service, especially if you were in a Lutheran Protestant church, not a Catholic. Catholics had a little bit better. But if you were in a Lutheran Protestant church, they would have a service, and in the front row would be all the Stasi people, and these big, huge cathedrals would be empty. You could not practice your faith. So at the Church of St. Nikolai, 2 Christians got together, and they took a leap of faith. And they said, we want to pray together, let's do it on Monday. It had to be top secret because the Stasi, 1/3 of the population was related to the Stasi. They would be turned in and be executed. After 6 months, another one joined. They took a leap of faith with another person. He came on. And then another, and finally, after 12 years, there were several 100,000 on having Monday Masses. And in 1988-89, the East German government couldn't stop it. Massive civil disobedience could not be stopped, and it started with one person at a time. That's how it started. It was a Christian movement. The Catholics didn't like it. Because the world is different religiously from the United States. I mean, you go out in other countries and stuff, and you see how people practice their religion, and you come back here and say, oh yeah, they're Catholics over there, and you come over here and say, well, the church is not like over there. It's been Americanized. That's something unique about us. We Americanize things, including religion. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Mark.
How about Newsmax? How do they fare?
Newsmax, very, very good. I recommend Newsmax. I recommend Agenda 21 Radio. I recommend the UK Mail.
What about BBC?
What?
British Broadcasting.
BBC sometimes, but be cautious, because they're very liberal. but they'll tell you the truth. I know that's kind of a oxymoron, but that's the way that they do things over there. It's like the old way. We used to have liberals that would tell you the truth. Any of the European, the Telegraph, the Independent, the UK Mail, all those are excellent, absolutely excellent. And there's one other one I can't remember. I want to say the Telegraph. Yes, ma'am.
Some other ones that have very good news is Judicial Watch, Heritage Foundation, Cal Watchdog. That's Katie Grimes. I think you heard her talk.
No, she's with Flashpoint now.
That's right. She is.
Cal Watchdog is being funded by Charles Munger Jr. now.
Is it really? There's also Pacific Research Foundation.
Pacific Research Foundation, right. And Brad Dacus's group is a good one. If you go to my links page on my website, actually if you go to my website, I have a whole scroll of links on one side. Those are all fairly, I think they're very good. Breitbart's pretty good. I think they're, especially California Breitbart. Chris Street, of course, writes for them. He writes 3 articles a day for them. So he's always got good stuff. Yes, sir. Oh no, listen, we're all educated about Charles Munger here. Oh yeah, we all know about Charlie Munger and what he's done to the Republican Party. I went down and reported at the convention. I was down there and saw the demise of the Republican Party primarily because of him, and sat in a room with a whole bunch of other reporters, including reporters from the LA Times, New York Times, Tribune, Chicago, Union Tribune, and San Diego and other places. And we were all kind of just sitting around shooting the breeze, and everybody was in agreement that the Republican Party was dead and no longer relevant. And that's exactly what they'll tell you in the Capitol. But with your good work, you're going to revive it. It can be resuscitated. You just have to be politically savvy as to how to take them out. Now, one of the things that's a good wedge item is the Jefferson movement, because it's constitutionally written, and Larry's back there whining because he wants to go to happy hour. So he's pulling the hook on me. Yes, sir. Not done yet, Larry.
It's happy hour.
Yes, sir. What's the question?
I forgot it.
Do you have mental constipation?
I do.
Hey, Paul, how about Alice's wife? He has a Matrix, Beyond the Matrix or something. Alan Watt.
Is he a Scottish guy?
Yeah.
Well, I'm part Scottish, so I can't comment on that. Just kidding. Actually, there's some really good overseas guys that, when you're overseas, you have a different perspective of what the United States looks like from the media. There's no question about it. And they have a great perspective. Okay, Tom, you remember now.
What's with the gold mine up in Oregon? Anything new? Is it still a stalemate?
One thing that's new is that apparently they reached some sort of agreement. This is the only disheartening thing I can think of this whole episode because we played such a big role in it. And we got them, the BLM, to back down, obviously. And the BLM was acting illegally. It was seen by everybody, and they're running scared. They're still, thanks, Thomas. they're still running scared of the truth, the BLM is, because they've been so egregiously illegal. However, one of the things, and Patrick Wood, the author of Technocracy, pointed this out to me, that they didn't call him a third time, which they said they would before they went into the final agreement with the BLM. And they went in to agree that they would stop mining and work with the BLM, and that was the wrong thing to do. So we got a ways to learn, but we do know we've learned a lot with what happened up here in Belize. We learned a lot from what happened in Bundy Ranch, and I'll tell you, the BLM, they're scared to death about what we've learned. But we don't care. We're going to keep on teaching it. So, Danielle? Okay, I'm done, unless anybody else has the last question.
What's the update on New Haven?
New Haven?
Yeah.
New Haven.
Oh, maybe I have it wrong. Where the school was bombed.
Newtown?
Newtown.
Oh, Newtown. I haven't talked to Wolfgang Halbig about Newtown. I haven't talked to him in a week or so.
Well, we were supposed to have a hearing on the 24th of last month.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten the update on that, whether they had it or not. And that was the reason why I was going to get a hold of him, but quite frankly, I just haven't gotten a hold of him. I haven't gotten any communications from my sources. I think I told you guys I had great communication. It's up on the website from my name. Her name is, her real name I can't tell you, but her name is My Name's Not Mary. And she documents all the real estate transactions that happened in Newtown. She's that person. And she's an absolute, she has credentials you wouldn't believe. I'm glad that she's on our team. Yes? Oh, okay, Danielle, you're up.